Security, we have a vagrant situation at counter 3. Please escort this individual back to the street where she belongs. The words exploded through First National Trust's marble halls like a gunshot. 68-year-old Mrs. Eleanor Whitman gasped. Investment banker James Chen's coffee cup froze halfway to his lips. Every phone in the room started recording. The woman in the tailored navy suit stood perfectly still. Her Hermes briefcase gleamed under the crystal chandelier. Her Mont Blanc pen caught the light as she checked her watch. 2:47 p.m. 13 minutes until the board meeting. Her board meeting. Branch manager Derek Patterson puffed out his chest, drunk on his own authority. He had just committed career suicide in front of 15 witnesses and didn't even know it, because what happened in the next 13 minutes would trigger a corporate earthquake that would reshape American banking forever. Have you ever watched someone destroy themselves with their own arrogance? Dr. Amara Williams had walked into First National Trust exactly like she had every Wednesday for 6 months. Same Armani suit, same confident stride, same briefcase containing the quarterly reports that would seal Derek Patterson's fate. But today, Derek decided to put on a show. "Excuse me, miss." Derek's voice boomed across the marble floor, the word miss dripping with condescension. "This is a private banking facility. The welfare office is downtown." The insult detonated like a grenade. 68-year-old Mrs. Eleanor Whitman gasped audibly. Investment banker James Chen's coffee cup clattered against its saucer. Every conversation died instantly. Derek's smile was predatory. He had an audience now. Time to perform. "I'm here for an appointment," Amara said, her voice steady as steel. "An appointment?" Derek's laugh was theatrical, designed to humiliate. "Sweetheart, our minimum account balance is $2 million. Our clients drive Bentleys, not... Whatever brought you here?" The crowd began to murmur. Phones emerged from Hermes bags like weapons. This was about to become content. "Look, I understand you might be confused," Derek continued, his voice getting louder, more performative. "But this establishment serves a very particular clientele. Perhaps you're looking for check cashing? Or maybe you need help applying for food stamps." Each word was a sledgehammer blow. Check cashing. Food stamps. The subtext screamed. "You're beneath us." Security guard Miguel Santos had worked here 12 years. He'd never seen Derek this vicious. Something was wrong. The woman's briefcase, custom leather with a gold seal. He'd seen that seal before. "Where?" "I have a 3 o'clock meeting," Amara repeated, checking her Patek Philippe watch. "The board meeting?" Derek's voice cracked with fake surprise. "Oh, honey, that's for actual executives. People who own companies. People who matter. You know, the kind of people who don't shop at... At where, Derek?" The use of his first name hit like a slap. Derek's smile faltered. His nameplate was behind the counter. She couldn't see it from there. "How do you know my name?" Derek demanded, his voice rising an octave. Amara smiled. It was a glacier smile. Cold, patient, deadly. "I know a lot of things, Derek. I know about your memo recommending demographic filtering. I know about your proposal to maintain institutional standards. I know about your plan to make this branch more exclusive." The room went silent except for the soft click of phone cameras. Derek's face drained of color. "Those memos were confidential. Board-level confidential." "I don't know what you're talking about," Derek stammered. "Of course you don't." Amara's voice was silk wrapped around a blade. "Just like you don't know about the 47 discrimination complaints filed against this branch in the past year, or the 23 clients who closed their accounts citing unwelcoming atmosphere." How did she know those numbers? Those were internal reports. Classified. Mrs. Whitman whispered loudly to her companion. She doesn't belong here. Look at her. Other customers nodded in agreement. This was their world, their sanctuary, their rules. You people always think you're entitled to everything, muttered Richard Blackstone, hedge fund manager, his voice carrying across the marble. Maybe she's here to rob the place, suggested Patricia Ashford, real estate heiress, her Botoxed face twisting with disgust. The crowd was turning ugly. Phones were recording everything. Banking while black was about to trend. Derek fed off their energy like a vampire. See, even our valued customers can tell you don't belong. This is what happens when people don't know their place. Security! Derek's voice echoed off the vaulted ceiling. Remove this individual immediately. She's disturbing our clientele. Miguel Santos hesitated. The woman's calm was unnatural. The expensive briefcase. The way she kept checking her watch like she was waiting for something specific. Sir, Miguel said carefully. Maybe we should... Now, Miguel, Derek roared, before she causes more disruption. Amara's smile widened. It was terrifying. Disruption, she repeated softly. Derek, you haven't seen disruption yet. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, a black Mercedes S-Class pulled up. Then another, then a third. Men in $1,000 suits emerged, briefcases in hand, moving with military precision. Jay's breathing became even, the pressure on her throat filling the space surrounding her lungs. You have exactly 60 seconds to apologize, Amara said, her voice cutting through the chaos like a scalpel. 60 seconds to save your career. 60 seconds to prevent a corporate earthquake that will make the 2008 financial crisis look like a minor tremor. Derek's face turned purple. Are you threatening me? I'm offering you salvation, Amara interrupted. But the offer expires in 30 seconds. The glass doors burst open. 3 attorneys in Armani suits strode in, their footsteps echoing like gunshots on marble. Dr. Williams, the lead attorney called out, his voice carrying across the stunned silence. We apologize for the delay. The board meeting can begin now. Derek's mouth fell open, the color drained from his face. The crowd went dead silent. The cavalry had arrived, and Derek Patterson was about to learn the most expensive lesson of his life. The glass doors didn't just open, they detonated. 3 figures in charcoal Brioni suits swept through First National Trust like angels of corporate death. Their Italian leather shoes struck marble with the rhythm of a funeral march. Derek Patterson's world didn't just tilt, it shattered. Dr. Williams, the lead attorney's voice sliced through the stunned silence like a guillotine blade. Harrison, Mackenzie and Associates, Federal Banking Litigation Division. Federal banking litigation. The words hit Derek like a cardiac arrest. Mrs. Eleanor Whitman's champagne flute exploded against marble. Investment banker James Chen's $3,000 Mont Blanc pen rolled across the floor. Hedge fund prince Richard Blackstone actually whimpered. There's been some mistake, Derek whispered, his voice dissolving like sugar in acid. The lead attorney, 6'4", silver fox, wearing a watch worth more than Derek's annual salary, smiled with the warmth of a morgue refrigerator. Mr. Patterson, we've heard everything about you. Ladies and gentlemen, the attorney announced, his voice booming across the marble cathedral like God's own PA system. Dr. Amara Williams, Chairman of the Board and Chief Executive Officer of First National Trust Corporation, majority shareholder, your boss's boss's boss. The revelation didn't just hit the crowd, it vaporized them. James Chen's iPhone shattered on marble. Richard Blackstone's espresso cup exploded from his convulsing hand. Patricia Ashford's face went so white, her Botox looked like cracks in a glacier. Derek's legs collapsed, He crashed into the counter, his manicured fingernails clawing at marble like a drowning man grabbing for driftwood. "Impossible," he gasped, the word barely human. "Impossible?" Amara's voice was liquid nitrogen. "Derek, I've been in this bank's boardroom every Wednesday for 6 months, reading your reports, your memos, your delightful proposal about maintaining demographic purity." Security guard Miguel Santos felt his 12 years of employment flash before his eyes. That seal on her briefcase, the corporate logo, the CEO portrait in the executive wing he'd guarded but never really looked at. "But you can't be the—" Derek's voice cracked like a prepubescent boy's. "Can't be what, Derek?" Amara's question was a verbal scalpel. "Black? Female? Qualified? Successful? Which fantasy would you prefer to die with?" Attorney number 2 stepped forward, his briefcase opening with the precision of a surgeon's first incision. "Mr. Patterson, your email history makes for fascinating reading." Derek's face went from white to green. Actual nausea. "Shall I quote directly?" the attorney continued. "We must maintain standards that reflect our institutional values." Or perhaps this gem: "Certain demographics simply don't align with our brand identity." "Those were private communications," Derek choked. "Private?" Amara's laugh was pure sulfuric acid. "Derek, I'm the CEO. I own your privacy. I own your computer. I own your thoughts while you're in this building." Attorney number 3 began laying documents on the marble counter like a coroner arranging evidence at a crime scene. Each paper was another bullet through Derek's professional corpse. "Discrimination complaints filed against this branch. 47, he announced, with the precision of a medical examiner. "Complaints investigated by Mr. Patterson. 0. Derek tried to speak, only a wheeze emerged. "High net worth accounts closed due to unwelcoming atmosphere, 23 clients. Combined assets transferred to competitors, $47.3 million. Mrs. Whitman actually staggered. 47 million, gone, because Derek wanted to play racial gatekeeper. Federal banking regulation violations, 12 documented instances. FDIC investigation requests, 3 active. Congressional subpoena probability, 94%. Each number was a sledgehammer blow to Derek's skull. James Chen had recovered his backup phone and was live streaming to his 847,000 LinkedIn followers. The view count was climbing like a rocket. 50K, 100K, 250K. "Oh, sweet Jesus," Patricia Ashford whispered, staring at her screen in horror. "Banking while black is trending #1 globally. We're on CNN's homepage." Every phone in the room had become a weapon of mass humiliation. Every angle captured, every word recorded. Every moment of Derek's professional death was being broadcast in 4K to the entire planet. The comments were a digital lynch mob. "Drag him, sis. This is the content I live for. Someone call the burn unit. Black excellence just ended this man's whole career. I'm screaming this is beautiful." Derek watched his destruction go viral in real time. His children would see this at school, his wife at her book club, his mother at bridge night. His reputation was being murdered on the internet. "The board meeting," Derek whispered, understanding dawning like the sun rising over Hiroshima. "You were coming to the board meeting to discuss my proposal." "I wasn't coming to discuss it, Derek," Amara said, her voice soft as a funeral hymn. "I was coming to chair the meeting where we would have voted on your recommendation to make this bank whites only without actually saying it." Derek's proposal, his masterpiece, his plan to optimize customer demographics and enhance institutional prestige by systematically excluding undesirable clients. "We were going to approve it," Derek croaked. "Were you?" Amara's smile was pure cobra venom. How delicious! Because I just spent an hour being your test case. Tell me, Derek, when the board sees this footage, how do you think they'll vote on your diversity initiative? She gestured to the forest of phones capturing his disintegration. Derek's career didn't flash before his eyes. It burst into flames and burned to ash. This transcends today's humiliation, Amara continued, her voice building like a Category 5 hurricane. This is about every qualified person you've degraded, every brilliant mind you've dismissed, every time you confused your prejudice with professional judgment. The attorneys were constructing a paper mountain of evidence: bank records, customer testimonials, internal communications, a documentary trail of institutional racism stretching back half a decade. You transformed my bank into your personal apartheid experiment, Amara declared, her voice reaching courtroom volume. You made it a fortress against people who look like me, in an institution that I own. The irony was so perfect it was almost artistic. Derek had spent years building walls to exclude people, never realizing one of those people owned the entire structure. Dr. Williams, the lead attorney announced with funeral solemnity, the board awaits your presence. Shall we proceed? Derek realized with crystalline clarity that this was his titanic moment, his last chance to grab a lifeboat before disappearing into the icy depths of unemployment. Dr. Williams, he began, his voice disintegrating like wet tissue paper. I sincerely apologize. I had no idea you were... Had no idea I was what, Derek? Amara's question was a verbal execution. Had no idea I was the CEO? Or had no idea that treating human beings like garbage was fundamentally evil? Derek's mouth opened and closed soundlessly. He was a fish, gasping on the deck of his own sinking ship. The damage is terminal, Derek, Amara declared, gathering her briefcase like a general collecting battlefield trophies. But console yourself. In approximately 8 minutes, you'll have unlimited time to contemplate everything you didn't know. The attorneys flanked her like an honor guard as she glided toward the elevator. The crowd parted like the Red Sea before Moses. Derek Patterson stood alone in his marble mausoleum, surrounded by the smoking ruins of his own creation, while 2.7 million people watched his professional execution on social media. The elevator doors closed with the finality of a coffin lid. Derek was left with nothing but the echo of his own words. This establishment serves qualified customers only. The most qualified customer in the building had just ended his existence, and the real fireworks hadn't even started yet. 47 floors above Derek's shattered career, the executive boardroom gleamed like a temple of corporate divinity. Floor-to-ceiling windows commanded Manhattan like the eyes of Zeus. The mahogany conference table, carved from a single 1,000-year-old tree, stretched 20 feet of polished perfection. 12 titans of American finance sat in Italian leather thrones, each worth more than Derek's annual salary. These weren't just board members. These were kingmakers. Senator Harrison Walsh III, Banking Committee Chair. David Chen, Federal Reserve Advisor. Patricia Thornton, Treasury Department Liaison. Gentlemen, Amara Williams announced as she entered, her voice carrying the authority of someone who could buy and sell them all. I trust you've enjoyed today's performance art. On the wall screens, Derek's destruction played like a gladiator's death in the Colosseum. Every slur, every sneer, every moment of his professional execution, captured in surgical 4K detail. Board member Senator Walsh went corpse pale. Dr. Williams, we had absolutely no... Of course you didn't. Amara's voice cut through his excuse like a chainsaw through tissue paper. Because you've all been playing God from this ivory tower while my bank operated like a Jim Crow fever dream. Attorney Harrison stepped forward, his briefcase opening like the gates of hell. Gentlemen, Prepare for impact. The first slide materialized on the massive screen. Discrimination impact analysis. The attorney privileged. Discrimination complaints filed against the Park Avenue branch, 47 in 18 months. Harrison announced with the precision of a pathologist reading an autopsy report. Combined net worth of complainants, $2.3 billion. David Chen's $500 0-cents crystal water glass shattered in his grip. Billion? With a fucking B? 43 complaints were dismissed without investigation on Derek Patterson's direct orders. Harrison continued like a judge reading a death sentence. Cost to the bank and transferred assets, $47.3 million. The numbers kept coming like machine gun fire. Federal compliance violations, 12 documented, 37 suspected. FDIC investigation probability, 97%. Congressional subpoena certainty, 100%. Class action lawsuit exposure, $127 million 0 cents, minimum. Criminal prosecution risk, 23%. Banking license revocation probability, 34%. Each statistic was a bullet through their collective skull. The viral impact, Attorney McKenzie announced, pulling up social media analytics that looked like a nuclear explosion. Banking while black, 4.2 million tweets and climbing exponentially. Video views, 23 million across all platforms in 2 hours. International coverage, CNN, BBC, Al Jazeera, Deutsche Welle, NHK. Stock price, down 18% and free-falling. Competitor stock prices, up 12% on our misery. We're not just trending, McKenzie explained with surgical detachment. We're a Category 5 social media hurricane. The video of Dr. Williams' humiliation has been viewed more times than the president's inauguration. Patricia Thornton stared at her phone in absolute horror. My daughter just called from Yale Law. They've canceled contracts class to analyze this case in real time. This is being taught as a masterclass in corporate liability. But here's the part that will destroy you, Amara said, her voice dropping to a whisper that somehow filled the room like thunder from Mount Olympus. This isn't about one rogue employee. This is about systematic institutional white supremacy. Attorney associates began distributing thick folders, internal documents thicker than phone books, email chains, policy memos, training materials, a paper trail of coordinated exclusion stretching back 5 years. Derek Patterson didn't create this culture, Amara continued, her voice building like a tsunami. He was perfecting it, following your guidelines, meeting your expectations, delivering the racist results you rewarded him for. The boardroom went dead silent except for the sound of pages turning and souls dying. His performance reviews, Amara read from the damning documents, consistently praised his exceptional ability to maintain institutional standards and preserve brand integrity through strategic client curation. What exactly did you think strategic client curation meant? No one answered. They all knew exactly what it meant. Gentlemen, let me share some fascinating research, Amara announced, pulling up a presentation that made the previous data look like a gentle warning. The pattern analysis, smoking gun evidence. Park Avenue branch customer demographics 20192024. White clients, 847, 89.2%. Black clients, 23, 2.4%. Hispanic clients, 19, 2%. Asian clients, 156, 16.4%. Middle Eastern clients, 8, Korean, 0.8%. The numbers hung in the air like a toxic gas cloud. Now, Manhattan's actual demographics in this zip code, Amara continued, each word a nail in their coffin. 42% minority. Yet our branch serves a client base that's 89% white. James Morrison tried to speak. Market demographics. Market demographics? Amara's laugh was pure, concentrated sulfuric acid. Jim, I've been living this for 6 months. Want to know what I discovered? The next slide was a heat map of complaint resolution patterns that looked like a crime scene. 89% of complaints resolved favorably. Evening shift. 91% of complaints resolved favorably. Derek Patterson's afternoon shift. 3% of complaints resolved favorably. Derek wasn't a bad apple, Amara announced like a prosecutor delivering a closing argument. He was your perfect employee. He was executing your vision with surgical precision. Which brings us to the federal sledgehammer, Attorney Harrison announced, his voice carrying the weight of impending corporate death. What federal involvement? Senator Walsh croaked, like a dying frog. 4 federal agencies are now circling like vultures, Harrison explained, spreading documents across the mahogany table like a coroner arranging evidence at a mass murder scene. The FDIC, the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division, and the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit. The room temperature dropped to Arctic levels. The DOJ is particularly interested, Harrison continued with mortician-like precision, because this appears to be systematic exclusion implemented as corporate policy, not isolated incidents, institutional racism as business strategy. Charles Whitfield's face went death mask gray. What kind of penalties are we facing? Conservative estimate? 200 million in fines. Aggressive estimate? Complete banking license revocation and criminal prosecution of senior executives. The words hit like a tactical nuclear strike. License revocation meant institutional death. Criminal prosecution meant personal destruction. But here's what will haunt your nightmares, Amara said, standing and walking to the window overlooking her empire like a goddess surveying her domain. I didn't just discover this discrimination. I orchestrated it. The board members looked confused, then terrified as understanding dawned. For 6 months, I visited that branch every Wednesday, Amara continued, her voice gaining power like a building earthquake. Not as the CEO, as Dr. Amara Williams, consultant. I wanted to experience how my bank treated people who looked like me. The realization hit the room like a meteor strike. You planned this entire thing? Senator Walsh whispered, in absolute horror. I documented it, Amara corrected, turning from the window with the smile of a predator who just finished devouring her prey. Every interaction, every microaggression, every moment of casual cruelty. I have 6 months of recorded evidence, 47 witness statements, and 18 hours of hidden camera footage. She walked back to her throne at the head of the table like a queen returning to her kingdom. Today's humiliation wasn't an accident. It was the grand finale, the crescendo of a 6-month symphony of institutional racism that I conducted myself. So here's what's going to happen, Amara announced, her voice carrying the finality of a judge sentencing war criminals. Derek Patterson will be terminated immediately. No severance, no recommendations, no golden parachute. He'll be unemployable in banking forever. Terrified nods around the table. The entire Park Avenue branch will be closed for 1 month for complete ideological reconstruction, she continued. Every employee will undergo 100 hours of bias elimination or be terminated. More frantic nodding. We will implement the Williams Protocol, AI-powered monitoring of all customer interactions with real-time bias detection and immediate termination for violations. The board was hanging on her every word like condemned prisoners hearing their fate. And finally, Amara said, her voice dropping to a whisper that somehow filled the room like the voice of God, we will establish a $100 million fund for minority business lending, with mandatory branch quotas for diverse client acquisition. The room erupted in shocked gasps. $100 million? Charles Whitfield choked. The alternative, Amara replied with Arctic finality, is federal prosecution, criminal charges, license revocation, and the complete annihilation of everything you've built. Your choice. She gathered her briefcase and stood to leave like a conqueror departing a conquered city. Oh, and gentlemen, Derek Patterson's humiliation has been viewed by 28 million people and counting. The world is watching how we respond. I suggest we make our response legendary. The boardroom door closed behind her with the finality of a tomb ceiling. 12 of the most powerful men in American finance sat in stunned silence, realizing they'd just been systematically destroyed by a woman they'd never bothered to meet. The Queen had reclaimed her throne, and the massacre was just beginning. The elevator descended through 47 floors of corporate hierarchy like a guided missile falling toward ground zero. Inside the mirrored death chamber, Amara Williams adjusted her Mont Blanc pen, the same pen Derek had dismissed as fake 3 hours ago. The doors opened to reveal a scene from professional purgatory. Derek Patterson sat collapsed at the marble counter, his $800 0-cents Hermes tie strangling his neck, his custom shirt translucent with the sweat of a man watching his existence evaporate in real time. Around him, 23 customers held phones like medieval torches, still recording, still broadcasting his disintegration to 2.8 million viewers worldwide. Security guard Miguel Santos stood paralyzed by the entrance, his badge trembling in his hand. Mrs. Eleanor Whitman live-streamed to her bridge club. Investment banker James Chen's video had 450,000 shares and climbing like a rocket. Derek. Amara's voice sliced through the marble silence like a guillotine blade. The board has rendered its verdict. Derek looked up with the hollow eyes of a man who'd already died inside and was waiting for his body to catch up. Dr. Williams, please, I have a family. Stand up. The command wasn't shouted. It didn't need to be. It carried the weight of divine judgment. Derek rose on legs that betrayed him with every tremor, his body shaking like a leaf in a hurricane. Ladies and gentlemen, Amara announced, her voice projecting across the marble cathedral to every recording device, every witness, every soul who would carry this moment into history. You are about to witness the cost of institutional racism. The crowd pressed closer like spectators at a gladiatorial execution. Phones focused. The world held its breath. Derek Patterson, Amara continued, withdrawing a blood-red folder from her briefcase. By the authority vested in me as Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of First National Trust Corporation, you are hereby terminated for cause, effective immediately. Derek's knees buckled. He collapsed against the counter, his manicured fingers clawing at marble like a drowning man's final grasp at life. Your security access has been permanently revoked. Your corporate accounts have been frozen. Your employment history has been flagged with federal discrimination violations in the National Banking Database. Each word was a bullet through his professional soul. You have 10 minutes to collect your personal belongings under armed security escort. You will never work in financial services again. Ever. The crowd watched in fascinated horror as a man's entire existence crumbled in ultra-high definition. But Derek's termination is merely the overture, Amara continued, her voice building like a Category 5 hurricane preparing to make landfall. This institution will undergo complete ideological reconstruction. She withdrew a document thick as a phone book. Williams Procurement. Emergency. Implementation. Effective immediately, this branch will be closed for 60 days. Every employee will undergo 200 hours of bias elimination training. Those who fail will be terminated without severance. Manager Susan Martinez actually whimpered. The entire staff would be massacred. We are implementing military-grade AI surveillance of all customer interactions, Amara continued, her voice gaining power like a building earthquake. Facial recognition, voice analysis, real-time bias detection, with immediate termination protocols. The technology was already being installed. Cameras, microphones, algorithmic justice with no appeals process. Customer service representatives will be evaluated exclusively on diversity inclusion scores. Your salaries will depend on your ability to serve all customers with mathematical equality. The old system was dying. The new system would be born in blood and silicon. The financial devastation, Attorney Harrison announced, stepping forward with documents that looked like corporate death certificates. Derek Patterson's discriminatory practices have cost this institution $68.7 million in transferred assets. The number hit the crowd like a physical assault. 68 million. Vaporized. Because of one man's prejudice. Federal investigations will cost an estimated $24 million in legal fees, Harrison continued with mortician-like precision. Regulatory compliance improvements will require $38 million in technology infrastructure. The calculator of consequences kept running like a slot machine, paying out in reverse. The Discrimination Settlement Fund has been capitalized at $100 million. Harrison read from the board's emergency resolution, available immediately for affected customers and community reparations. Derek watched his legacy being measured in dollars and devastation. The cost of his hatred, the price of his pride. His children's college funds, gone. His wife's security, destroyed. His retirement, evaporated. The social media impact, Attorney McKinsey announced, pulling up real-time analytics that looked like a digital mushroom cloud, has achieved weapons-grade viral status. Banking while black, 89 million tweets and trending in 47 countries. Video views, 52 million across all platforms in 4 hours. International coverage. CNN, BBC, Al Jazeera, every network on Earth. Stock price down 31% and triggering NYSE trading halt. Competitor market gains, $3.7 billion, 0 cents in transferred market cap. We're not just viral, McKinsey explained with surgical detachment. We're a global cultural phenomenon. The video of Dr. Williams's humiliation is being analyzed in Harvard Business School, Georgetown Law, and the Congressional Black Caucus. Derek's racism had become a masterclass in corporate failure. The hashtag Derek Patterson is now permanently associated with workplace discrimination, McKinsey continued like a coroner reading a cause of death. Your name will be taught to future generations as the definitive example of career suicide through bigotry, immortality through infamy. The only legacy Derek would ever leave. The federal response, Attorney Harrison announced, his voice carrying the weight of governmental wrath, has been swift and absolutely merciless. Merciless. He spread official documents with federal seals across the marble like a poker dealer revealing a royal flush of destruction. The Department of Justice Civil Rights Division has opened a formal criminal investigation, Harrison read like a judge pronouncing a death sentence. The FDIC has placed this institution under federal supervision. The Treasury Department has frozen executive compensation pending investigation. Derek's discrimination had triggered a federal response. He hadn't just violated corporate policy. He'd committed federal crimes. The Congressional Committee on Financial Services has scheduled public hearings, Harrison continued. Dr. Williams will testify about institutional racism. Derek Patterson has been subpoenaed as the primary witness. Derek would face Congress. His humiliation would be broadcast on C-SPAN. His shame would be entered into the congressional record for eternity. The FBI Financial Crimes Unit has requested all employee communications, Harrison added. Personal emails, text messages, social media posts, everything. Derek's privacy was dead. His life was about to be dissected under federal microscopes. "Derek," Amara said, her voice dropping to a whisper that somehow filled the marble cathedral like the voice of God delivering final judgment. "Do you comprehend what you've accomplished?" Derek tried to speak. Only a death rattle emerged. "You didn't just discriminate against me," Amara continued, her voice building like a tsunami preparing to devour coastlines. "You discriminated against every person who shares my melanin. Every qualified customer you dismissed, every brilliant mind you degraded, every dream you crushed. The personal became political. The individual became institutional. The moment became eternal. Your wife will watch this video at her book club," Amara said, each word a scalpel cut through his soul. "Your children will see their father become a symbol of everything diseased in America. Your mother will read about your racism in her morning newspaper." Derek's personal destruction was as complete as his professional annihilation. "You wanted to maintain standards," Amara continued, her voice reaching biblical crescendo. "Congratulations. You've become the gold standard by which discrimination is measured for the next 50 years. Security," Amara announced, her voice carrying the finality of a judge's gavel sentencing a war criminal. "Remove this individual from my property." Miguel Santos stepped forward, his face a mask of professional duty and personal devastation. "Sir, you need to come with me now." Derek looked around the marble mausoleum one final time, at the customers who'd watched his crucifixion, at the phones that had recorded his apocalypse, at the institution he'd served faithfully for 15 years, before destroying it in 15 minutes. "Dr. Williams?" Derek whispered, his voice barely human. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "I know you are, Derek," Amara replied, her voice carrying not triumph but tragic finality. "But sorry doesn't resurrect the careers you murdered with your prejudice. Sorry doesn't restore the dignity you stole from countless customers. Sorry doesn't undo 15 years of systematic discrimination. Not only did she completely pell my dressing room, she turned to face the crowd, her voice projecting to every recording device, every witness, every soul who would carry this moment forward into history. "Let this be a lesson to every person who thinks their prejudice is more important than human dignity," Amara declared like a prophet delivering divine judgment. "Let this be a warning to every institution that confuses discrimination with standards. Let this be a promise that the age of casual racism in corporate America is dead and buried." The crowd watched in stunned silence as Derek Patterson was escorted from the building, his 15-year career ending in 15 minutes of concentrated justice. The glass doors closed behind him with the finality of a coffin lid slamming shut. Derek Patterson, former branch manager, current cautionary tale, future textbook example, disappeared into the Manhattan afternoon, leaving behind only the echo of his own words. "This establishment serves qualified customers only." The most qualified customer of all had just ended his existence. The revolution was complete. The Queen had reclaimed her throne. The kingdom would never be the same, and Derek Patterson would never work again. The glass doors of First National Trust had barely closed behind Derek Patterson's broken form when the real destruction began. His iPhone, still clutched in his trembling hand, buzzed with notifications like a digital death knell. LinkedIn, your employment status has been updated to former employee. Twitter, you have 47,000 new mentions. Gmail, your corporate email has been deactivated. News alert, banking executive fired for racist incident goes viral. Derek stood on the sidewalk outside the bank he'd served for 15 years, watching his life disintegrate in real time. Passers-by recognized him from the viral video. Phones emerged. more recording. The humiliation was infinite. Inside the marble cathedral of his former workplace, the transformation had already begun. A team of federal investigators arrived with briefcases and badges. IT specialists wheeled in servers. HR consultants distributed termination notices. The Derek Patterson era was ending. The Williams protocol was beginning. Attention all staff. Amara's voice echoed through the intercom system like the voice of corporate justice. Effective immediately, this branch will undergo complete ideological reconstruction. 23 employees stood in the marble lobby, their faces masks of terror and uncertainty. Half of them would be gone by week's end. The other half would be transformed or terminated. Manager Susan Martinez, Amara continued, her voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. You are hereby suspended, pending investigation into your complicity in systematic discrimination. Susan's knees buckled. Her 20-year career was over. Teller Patricia Chen, Customer Service Representative Miguel Torres, and Security Guard Miguel Santos, you will report to HR immediately for bias assessment and retraining. The names kept coming like a roll call of the damned. Some would survive, most would not. This institution will no longer tolerate discrimination in any form, Amara announced. We are implementing zero-tolerance policies with immediate termination for violations. The old guard was dying. The new order was being born in their ashes. 48 hours after Derek's destruction, First National Trust looked like a scene from a science fiction film. AI-powered cameras monitored every customer interaction. Voice recognition software analyzed tone and word choice. Facial recognition technology tracked micro-expressions for signs of bias. The Williams protocol was operational. Good morning and welcome to First National Trust, said newly hired customer service representative Jessica Williams. Dr. Williams' niece, recruited from J.P. Morgan Chase. How may I provide you with exceptional service today? The greeting was monitored by 3 AI systems: tone analysis, optimal; word choice, inclusive; facial expression, genuinely welcoming. A middle-aged white customer approached with the entitled swagger Derek had once celebrated. I need to speak to someone in charge, someone who understands how things work. The AI systems immediately flagged the interaction as potentially discriminatory. Supervisor alerts activated. Cameras zoomed in. Absolutely, sir, Jessica replied with professional grace. I'm fully authorized to assist you with any banking needs. How may I help you today? The customer's discriminatory expectations met a wall of competent professionalism. The old system would have rewarded his prejudice. The new system neutralized it. Derek Patterson sat in the sterile conference room of Harrison, McKenzie & Associates, facing a legal team that looked like corporate executioners. His own attorney, a public defender because his assets had been frozen, shuffled papers nervously. Mr. Patterson, Attorney Harrison began, his voice carrying the weight of federal authority. The Department of Justice has completed its preliminary investigation. Derek's face went gray. Federal charges meant prison time. The evidence is overwhelming, Harrison continued, spreading documents across the table like a coroner arranging evidence. 47 documented instances of discrimination, 68 million in economic damages, systematic violation of federal civil rights laws. Derek's lawyer tried to speak. My client is prepared to cooperate. Cooperation is no longer an option, Harrison interrupted. This is about consequences. The federal government had decided to make an example of Derek Patterson. He would become a cautionary tale taught in law schools for generations. The House Committee on Financial Services hearing room was packed with reporters, activists, and congressional staff. C-SPAN cameras captured every moment as Dr. Amara Williams took the witness stand. Dr. Williams, Committee Chair Maxine Waters began, her voice carrying the weight of historical significance. Please describe for the record what happened at your bank. Congresswoman Waters, Amara replied, her voice projecting to every corner of the chamber. I experienced systematic discrimination at the highest levels of American banking, not as an isolated incident, but as institutional policy. The testimony was devastating, precise, irrefutable. Mr. Derek Patterson didn't act alone, Amara continued. He was implementing a culture of exclusion that had been rewarded and reinforced for years. Behind her, Derek Patterson sat at the witness table, his career and reputation in ruins. His testimony would be a confession, not a defense. This is why we need the Banking Equality Act, Amara declared, to ensure that what happened to me never happens to anyone else. The First National Trust Park Avenue branch reopened with a ceremony that looked like a civil rights celebration. Community leaders, federal officials, and banking executives gathered to witness the birth of a new era. Today marks the end of discrimination in American banking, Amara announced from the podium, her voice carrying across the marble lobby that had once been Derek's domain. Today marks the beginning of true equality. The Williams Protocol had been implemented across all 847 First National Trust branches. AI monitoring, bias detection, immediate intervention, zero tolerance. Other banks were adopting similar systems. The Derek Patterson incident had triggered an industry-wide revolution. Derek Patterson sat in his studio apartment in Queens, scrolling through job rejection emails. His savings were gone. His house was in foreclosure. His marriage was ending. Thank you for your interest in our organization. After careful consideration, we have decided to pursue other candidates. The same message, over and over. His name was toxic. His reputation was destroyed. His career was over. He'd become exactly what he'd always feared, unemployable, unwanted, excluded from the institutions he'd once served. The irony was perfect. The punishment fit the crime. The Derek Patterson case has fundamentally changed American banking, Professor Sarah Chen announced to her Harvard Business School class. It demonstrates how individual prejudice can trigger systemic transformation. On the screen behind her, Derek's humiliation played in slow motion. His destruction had become a teaching tool. Dr. Williams didn't just get revenge, Professor Chen continued. She created a new standard for corporate accountability. She transformed individual injustice into institutional reform. The students took notes frantically. Derek's downfall was now required reading. In Manhattan, the First National Trust Park Avenue branch served customers of every background with mathematical equality. The Williams Protocol monitored every interaction. The AI systems prevented discrimination before it could occur. Derek Patterson's legacy was complete. He'd wanted to maintain standards. He'd become the standard by which discrimination was measured. His humiliation had saved countless others from experiencing the same. The revolution was complete. The kingdom had been transformed. And Derek Patterson would never work in banking again. Justice had been served. Reform had been achieved. The future was finally equal. Derek Patterson's name had become a verb. Don't Derek this meant, don't destroy your career through discrimination. Getting Derek meant facing consequences for racism. His humiliation had entered the American lexicon. The First National Trust Park Avenue branch now displayed a plaque in the marble lobby, in memory of institutional discrimination, never again. Visitors took selfies with it. The location had become a pilgrimage site for civil rights activists. Derek himself had vanished into obscurity, unemployable, unemployed, a cautionary tale teaching America that prejudice had consequences. His wife had filed for divorce. His children had changed their last names. His mother had moved to Florida to escape the shame. The most thorough destruction in corporate history was complete. Dr. Amara Williams stood before the United Nations Human Rights Council, her voice carrying across the assembly hall like a prophecy of justice. The Derek Patterson incident proved that individual courage can trigger systemic change, she declared to delegates from 193 nations. One moment of documented discrimination became a catalyst for global banking reform. The Williams Protocol had been adopted by 847 banks across 23 countries. AI-powered bias detection prevented discrimination before it occurred. Millions of customers now experienced equal treatment thanks to one woman's strategic patience. We transformed a moment of personal humiliation into a movement of institutional transformation, Amara continued. That is the power of turning pain into purpose. The standing ovation lasted 4 minutes. Her speech would be quoted in textbooks for generations. In London, Barclays Bank implemented Project Williams, comprehensive bias elimination across all branches. In Tokyo, Mitsubishi UFJ adopted AI monitoring systems. In Paris, BNP Paribas created diversity quotas inspired by the Derek Patterson case. The humiliation that lasted 15 minutes had triggered reforms affecting 2.3 billion banking customers worldwide. Congressional testimony, federal legislation, international banking standards, all because one CEO decided to experience her own bank's discrimination firsthand. The Derek Patterson incident had become the most studied case in business ethics history. Can anyone tell me the primary lesson of the Derek Patterson case? Professor Martinez asked her Stanford Business School class. Hands shot up across the lecture hall. Systematic discrimination has quantifiable costs, offered one student. Individual prejudice can trigger institutional liability, suggested another. AI monitoring can prevent bias before it occurs, added a third. Correct. Professor Martinez smiled. But the deepest lesson is this. Justice delayed is not justice denied if you're strategic enough to document everything. The students took notes frantically. Derek's destruction was now required curriculum in 247 business schools worldwide. Amara Williams sat in her corner office overlooking Manhattan, the same city where Derek Patterson had tried to humiliate her 2 years ago. Her bank's stock price had reached all-time highs. Diversity metrics exceeded industry standards. The Williams Protocol had become the gold standard for bias prevention. Her phone buzzed with a news alert. Derek Patterson spotted working at gas station in Ohio. She felt no satisfaction, no triumph, only the quiet knowledge that justice had been served and systems had been changed. Her humiliation had become humanity's gain. Her pain had become progress. The revolution was complete. This story isn't just about Derek Patterson's downfall. It's about the power of strategic patience, documented evidence, and transforming individual injustice into systemic reform. Dr. Amara Williams proved that the best revenge isn't destruction, it's transformation. She didn't just end one racist's career. She reformed an entire industry. Your turn to make a difference. Have you experienced discrimination in the workplace? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience could be the catalyst for the next great reform. Hit that subscribe button if you want more stories of justice, transformation, and people who turn their pain into power. Share this video with someone who needs to see that individual courage can trigger systemic change. Which part of Dr. Williams' strategy impressed you most? The 6-month documentation plan? The boardroom confrontation? The viral humiliation? Let me know in the comments. Remember, every moment of injustice is an opportunity for transformation. Every act of discrimination is a chance to create systematic change. The Derek Patterson case proved that patience, strategy, and documentation can transform personal humiliation into global reform. Your story could be next. Subscribe, share, transform. The revolution continues.